Small business owners wear a lot of hats. They do a lot of the work. They get very little credit sometimes, particularly if it's to do with sales, because that's what how a customer gives you credit, by paying you for the work that you do. So my focus is how to help people leverage themselves using the power of automation. I've owned a small business before, and when I first got in there, I worked 12-hour days and would then come home to 3 hours paperwork. When we left the business, we saved a calendar which had every single day on that calendar with a 12-hour day on it. And at some point, I just went, that's enough. There's got to be a better way. So I started looking on ways to try and find little things that I could automate or that I could make more efficient. And over time, I actually managed to save myself 40 hours a month. Now, some of that was compounding with different things, so it was a cafe, and we had you had to put syrup in some of the coffees. So we put in syrup pumps, which would pump out 7.5 mils for every pump, and every time we made a drink that contained syrup, we'd actually save 4 seconds per drink. And if you work that out to be, the number of drinks that we sold in that cafe over a year, we actually saved 5 days worth of pumping syrup, and that's 24-hour days, not working days. So it can be, a little thing can really add up over time. And that principle is called Kaizen. It's very well pushed by Toyota. It's a Japanese principle, which means continually improving. So I guess what I want to try and portray is an image of someone who is working really hard to the bone, but with a little bit of changes periodically over time, they can win back immense amounts of time. Using software to do a job function, for example. So using the software like Infusionsoft, I've since been able to basically find all the customers without having to chase them down. Or an example of another bit of software is I had a payroll system that there was a facial recognition scanner, and every time a staff member would come and clock in or clock out, they'd just put their face in front of the scanner. That auto-captured the data, then put it into the payroll system. Within a few clicks, it went into the accounting system, and that turned a 20-hour a month process into a 2-hour a month process. And I thought, that was massive. But over time, I brought in more things, and we'll go through some of those in a second. So we are now we are now in, I suppose, the fourth industrial age. So over time, we've had a number of industrial ages, which has fundamentally changed the way people work, jobs, etc. So the first one was mechanization, water power, steam power, and being able to really use some kind of energy for production in industry. So, steel mills, making cars, trains, planes, automobiles. And then we've got the second industrial age, which was mass production and assembly line. So that's when, even in the 60s, companies like Ford, the Model T Ford was able to be produced on absolute massive scale for $500, which was probably quite a lot at the time, but still somewhat affordable. Then also, Henry Ford said you can have any kind of color you like as long as it's black. So mass production was good, but there was no way to customize or make the product different for each person, have different kits that they can put together and personalize things. Now, the third industrial age is computer and automation. I'd probably also throw in the information age. Since the birth of the internet, and now we've got robotics that can do just basic one thing, then that's been able to replace the human. Being able to store a ton of information has been, we create more data in the last year than we have in the last 100 years. So it is more and more complex. So we need to find ways to go the next step, which is where we are now, and that is the fourth industrial age, or the cyber physical systems, or AI, artificial intelligence, and that is basically allowing computers to take some of the decision making out of everything. So in the third industrial age, we've been producing a lot of information, but now there's probably so much that there's, you can't possibly handle it. No one person can sit and watch every single movie. They'd get probably 1% through if they watched every movie end to end over their lifetime. They'd only get to see 1%. So the fourth industrial age is using AI to filter, to segment, to collect things in certain ways so that we can look at the whole picture. Even some of the data points, or say that hit the go button and have 5 different things happen based on some examples or some rules in the system. And automation is having a massive part in disrupting jobs. So in the last couple of years, Foxconn, the company that actually physically produced the iPhone, so Apple designed it, and then they get Foxconn from China to assemble it, and then Apple go and put their software on it, and that's how that business works. Foxconn, now obviously every man and his dog has an iPhone, so and we're producing one thing, where we had people powered producing these things and put in a circuit and then solder it in, and then move to the next one, put in the circuit, solder it in. Foxconn recently announced that they were going to replace 60,000 workers with robots. So with one fell swoop, they were able to basically get rid of a significant portion of their workers, and also a decent percentage of the whole China working economy, or the labour market. So I guess the thing to consider is that what's work going to be next? There's so much disruption, and here you can see that 35% of core skills will change between 2015 and 2020. And it's 5 short years. And this report, I'm recording this in 2019. So now we've got 48% job disruption in Italy, 42 in India, 41 in China. And we've got, some of the sectors on the left. You can see that the financial services and investor sector is going to be 43% disrupted. So you're going to have, AI that can do stock trading, that could, based on algorithms and numbers and historical reports, basically can't get it wrong. And then we're going to have, electronic investors. I put my money in a computer, press the go button, and hope it's better than the other person's computer. And then, you've got basic infrastructure and mobility. So it's driverless cars and, Uber. Uber have created an industry where they are basically skimming everyone that's going to help someone else get a lift, get a ride to somewhere that they want to go. Uber's ultimate strategy for them to be 100% or significantly more profitable is driverless cars, because right now they have to pay commissions out, quite low commissions, to their drivers. So they've created jobs, and will very shortly, having had the systems in place, will probably remove those jobs. However, there could be an investor model for a car. So people could buy a car and then lease it back to Uber for a fixed interest thing. So that hence reducing the capital investment of Uber and reducing the investment cost or the running expenses. So I guess what I really want to talk about is the power of automation and systems. So the average person really only has 24 hours in a day. And the typical unsustainable model that sadly all too many business owners go through is the top one there. And you can see there is a little bit of sleep, some personal time, quite a bit of admin in just getting by in daily life, and some sales. But by using the power of automation and building some asynchronicity into what you're doing with your work, not having to be at a certain place at a certain time, you can just put something on a system and then it can be collected when it's needed from the other party at a later time. And then so the bottom model is there's a lot more sleep, a lot more personal time. The admin is less because of process automation, getting efficient, and then it is movable. So we can decide how much personal time versus how much sales without it having to really affect the impact on either of those two. So this is a quote from a sort of a professional theorist and academic in the area of businesses and information, Peter Senge, and he says that systems thinking is a discipline for seeking structures that underlie complex situations and for discerning high from low leverage change. That is, by seeing wholes, we learn how to foster health. To do so, systems thinking offers a language that begins with restructuring how we think. So basically, that means that even as complex as it may seem on the outset, there are some basic consistent things that happen across almost every scenario or situation. So you go through, let's say, for example, you're going to go and sell something to someone. And some people like to say, well, if what happens if the customer does X, or what if the customer does Y? Well, I guess over time you're going to see what the customer is going to do in all situations and all scenarios, and that's having that big picture view at a high level, and then understanding what's going to give you high leverage versus low leverage change. So maybe filling out a form and where you put their information on the form, that's probably going to be a low leverage change because they're still going to fill out all the same information. Yeah, you might have made it flow a bit better, but that's not really going to win big ticket goals. And then high leverage change might be, so for example, having an email sequence that follows up with them to fill out that form. So you've just clicked a button, it follows up on them to fill out the form, and then once they fill out the form, the automation stops. That is massive because now you don't then have to keep calling the person. You don't have to physically attend the site and put the form in front of them. They can do business with you from anywhere. And by seeing wholes and how to foster health. So that means, understanding the whole business, how that's working in terms of efficiencies. And we're not just talking from a money perspective, we're talking from a business health perspective. Are your staff happy and healthy? Are they tired of doing the daily grind and going out here and they hate going around and door knocking, for example? And using systems thinking offers a way to communicate how things have to happen. So I'm a big one on using diagrams and flowcharts, and that helps to show people a system rather than thinking that in very short terms of this happens and then this or that could happen. We're looking at the whole picture and mapping it out. So some examples of systemization. So removing redundant processes. I once had a client that said, at the end of this process, we need to sign in the purple book. Okay, so where is the purple book? Why do we need to sign in it? Who signs in it? And why? What does it achieve? And it turned out that was just a completely redundant exercise. Maybe someone wanted to check something, but they could have run a report that would have been done the same thing in a better way. So in that business, we ended up getting rid of that process. Next is creating usable data with online form design. So basically capturing the information live in a format that you can use or convert. So many businesses, go to like a trade expo and they have a bit of paper and a pen, and either the pen's going to run out or they run out of room on the paper, or someone's handwriting isn't very good, or the ink smears. But then even after you've captured all that information, someone's got to go and type it into the system, and it's not rich. Like, it's only an email address or a number, or if they only want to shove their name, or only sign and put a date. So you can't guarantee you're going to get the right information. So using an online form helps you with data validation. Make sure the number is correct. Make sure the email is consistent and actually works. And then making sure that you have required fields so you can collect information that is pertinent to what you need it for down the track. So you might say, I want an email and a phone number for everybody, regardless, so that you can call them and email in case they put you in junk or spam. And the next one is have a knowledge base for staff and clients to help themselves solve problems. This helps to reduce support costs. It also helps to, sometimes people want an answer right now. They can't be bothered waiting for someone to answer the phone. They can't be bothered waiting to get onto chat. They just want a quick Google, and maybe over the phone you won't be able to help them as well anyway, because there's some video, there's some images, there's a step-by-step guide for something that's going to take a while. Now, for a long step-by-step guide, if you're going to be on the phone with someone for half an hour while they go through something, that's going to take massive amounts of employee time, and it's going to be very expensive to try and service those needs. So use the knowledge base to help customers self-solve problems, but also for your staff, because in my cafe example, once upon a time, someone called me on my one day off. I was looking forward to a sleep in. It was at 5 a.m. Coffee machine's leaking. So I had to get up. I had to get dressed. I had to drive all the way in. I walked into the business and I looked at the thing and they had just pushed the wrong button, and I just pushed it again. And when I was trying to explain it over the phone, there was things getting lost in translation. Do you see this? Do you see that? No, there's this, there's that. I don't know what you mean. And so by having to show them, if someone sees it, then they understand. A picture tells 1,000 words. So if it's 64 frames per second, 64,000 words per second potentially. So anyway, what I did was I recorded a video on how to do that. So next time, when I got the call from a different staff member on a different day, I woke up, I forwarded them the link. So I listed it on YouTube as an unlisted video. I forwarded them the link via SMS. They watched it and they were able to fix the problem. Then after that, I actually created a knowledge base on the internet that they could log into, that they could get how to do all these little steps. So, how to cash out, how to use the register, how to do the banking, how to, fix the coffee machine with X, Y, and Z faults. And then I had staff actually going and completing or finding the answers for themselves, knowing that I was, fast asleep and that I'd have to come in, because typically there goes my whole day. Because if I come in, I'm then going to want to start, doing a few things to, and then end up being there an hour, 2 hours, or whatever. So it's not just a simple turn up, push the button, go back to sleep. No, because we're already awake. So some examples of systemization is software that can take the human out of the process, software that can remove the need for a physical presence. For example, with that one, I had a software tool that would give me notifications when certain things would happen. So once upon a time, I used to have to stand there and look at my watch and go, right, it's 11 o'clock, we need to order food. It's 2 o'clock, we need to order milk, because if we didn't have it, then we didn't have our critical ingredient for the next day. So in order to maintain that, I set the timers a little bit earlier, knowing that certain things had to be achieved at certain times. They would have a reminder that would give them time to go and actually do what they needed to do. And when it was done, they'd tick it off, and they would tick it off, and I would get a notification that it was complete. I'd also built in some online forms so they could not get it wrong. We had some people order milk and it was done via email. Instead of saying I need a bottle, they might say I need a case of cream, and then that was like 10 times more than we needed, and we couldn't use it all, and we had to try and sell it because we'd have to throw some in the bin or something like that. So rather than having all that waste, I made an online form with it had it in bottles, it had descriptions, it was capped at how many they could pick. The absolute maximum they could pick was 3, and then it had a description saying these come in big bottles. make sure you order this, approximately 2, 3 is an extreme case, and it really built in problem solving into the process. There's a Japanese principle called poker yoke, which is basically idiot proofing. You cannot possibly get it wrong because it is so damn simple. And another tool where with all of the tasks there was a little information button, and if you click the information button, if you didn't know how to do the task, you can click the info button and up would come a video or an article on how to do that task. So the answers were right there and immediate. There was absolutely no excuse for getting it wrong. Having daily checklists and operating standards so that we standardize the product so that anyone can follow. That's probably the only real way to be able to get yourself out of the business. And then creating clear process flows and, of course, standardizing your product. So one way to do that is with the cross-functional flowchart template. And I use this mostly so that if you've got different departments and different people that do different things, fair enough, if you're going to just have one process flow that's only one person does, then you can do it all on one page and you don't have to have this cross-functional or the swimming lanes that you can see here. But they basically allow you to say, all right, say for me with marketing automation, I'd say, all right, it starts with on the website when they click a button. The next thing goes into a plugin that pulls data from their website to the platform I work on, Infusionsoft. Then the third swimming lane might be that it pushes that out to another system for whatever reason. So it might API into another platform that they use, and then you can start to map out exactly what happens where, when, and why, and create some efficiencies and identify what needs to be there and what doesn't. Now you can get as complicated as you like, but simplicity really is the key. And if you do it in this process map, then you should be able to create something like this. If you need to, hopefully you don't, because it should be much simpler. But that would allow you to create something that will give you a specific result and make it easy enough for anyone to understand. So calculating the ROI. Not every task can be automated. Okay, that's pretty much a given. You need to work out a process flow and then a percentage automatable. So how much of it can you automate? And is that going to be a high leverage task, something that you can do that is going to give you a really good result? Then you need to make it relatable to the business operation. So you don't want to just go and automate one small part and you don't actually do that on a regular basis. Or you don't actually, it's a background thing. It's not what the customer sees, or it's not, you're not kicking goals for the business. So when I'm talking to people about how to calculate the ROI, I've got an equation here. So what is the cost of the automated process? So how much cheaper is it now that we've automated the thing? So we need to find the cost of the original process, and then a percentage of the percentage automatable minus 1. So that means that if I've got a task that costs $100, I'll get up a calculator here. If I've got a task that costs $100, and say 25% is automatable. So what we want to do is do the brackets first in this equation. So we're going to say 25 times minus 1. Okay, and basically when I say 0.25, is percentage, minus 1 equals 0.75. So you're going to find out what 0.75 of the cost of automation, the original automation. So 0.75 times 100 is 75. Let me just bring that on screen. Is 75. So 0.75 times 100 is 75. So that is now the new cost of the process. But now we need to add back the cost of automation, because you need to bring in software tools and systems to do it. So let's just say the software cost works out to be about $10 every time the process is created. So now we need to add back that $10. So now we have $85. So where the cost was originally $100 per process, it is now $85. So that gives you an amount that you can use. And then the next calculation based on that is the percentage saving. So cost of automated process divided by cost of original process. So we already have our thing, our first part. So that is cost of the automated process divided by 100, which was our original cost of process. And we can see that it costs 85% of the original cost. So then we can just say minus 1, and it's a 15% saving. So the example I want to give is I had a tutoring company, and as a client, and I should say in here, minus 1. So in the tutoring example, they had to get people to book sessions with them. And so for starters, they were having a payment plan, and they're trying to match it up, but then they couldn't understand when people were going to turn up, and whether they would, if they booked 10 sessions, they had 10/9, and then complain about being charged for the end session. There was no way to marry up billing with actual attendance. So then we got the tutors are people who are subcontractors, and the students, respond to ads from the company. So then the company marries up the tutor with the student, and away they go and do training. Now we implemented a calendar software which would collect information, would charge the client per session in advance, so there was no worry about accounts receivable. And then it would allow more efficiency in booking. So instead of being a set time every week, they could book it and say and adjust it by the time of day, and then maybe slot in somewhere. So yes, it was a little bit more fluid. It wasn't set Tuesday at 3 o'clock for an hour every Tuesday. Even though it could be that, but it also allowed a little bit of flexibility. So if someone had to be late, or someone had an event on, or something, and we built in some policies around late bookings or cancellations, and the ultimate cost to the company was about $20 per month per tutor. And they said, well, that's going to get expensive if we've got 40 tutors. And I said, well, let's work out how many billable hours per tutor per month. And they said, all right, well, that's 40. Okay. So let's divide 20 by 40. And that is 60 cents per billable hour. And we then worked out, right, well, how much, because you could get more efficient, we'll say at least 1 billable hour per month per tutor is now able to be booked because of the better booking, and also because of the follow-up reminders, so that if someone didn't turn up to a session, they were very loose on their policies, where if someone didn't turn up to a session, then they didn't get charged for it, even if they pulled out in an hour before or 2 hours before. So now that the system took over the cancellation policy, and then they didn't have to have that personal emotional thing where they're like, oh, should I charge them, shouldn't I charge them? They had set aside someone's time for that and cannot now rebook that for someone else. So of course they should charge them, particularly if they've pulled out 6 hours before or 4 hours before the actual session. There's no hope of rebooking that time. So we worked out the cost of 1 billable hour per tutor per month, and that resulted in an additional $33,371 in revenue. So rather than squabbling over 60 cents, we were able to turn the story around into, this is what you gain. Yes, there is a cost of automation, but there is also a massive gain. So this calculation only works out the cost of automation. It does not work out the gain. That is something that you need to determine based on the sale value, the time saving, employee cost. There's way too many variables to do an example here. So business process automation can happen in a number of ways. So you've got onboarding for a client, employee, or contractor. You can do feedback surveys and get, understand how to improve your business, but also asking for referrals. Scheduling, like in the example just given with the tutor, scheduling was a big problem. Now, it automatically reads the calendar of the tutor and then books a session based on their availability. And then also, while the client's booking it, they'd probably be looking at their own calendar to go, yep, I can do it on Wednesday at 3 p.m. I can do it on the following Tuesday at 2 p.m. And there's just a much more seamless booking or scheduling result without having to and fro between. Data collection and workflows, as I was saying with the web forms and collecting information in the right system in the right way the first time. And then contract management. Not only can you do anything where you can manage dates, you can manage timelines, you can set up emails, tasks, and reminders based on that agreement. And quite often, people say, I want to follow up 30 days out from a contract, but that never takes into consideration specific clauses. It might say, at this particular date, there is a milestone that needs to be achieved. It's not 30 days out from the end. It's not on the start date or on the finish date. It is something that is an absolute critical deadline, but unless there is a way to manage how those notifications happen, it may not actually happen. So knowledge management, okay, so looking at automation, being able to have those videos and those tasks on how to do everything, and group them by role so that you can say, right, my admin person has all of these videos, it might be how to put an invoice in Xero, how to register an expense, how to what email to send a client if they have X question, where to find different things on the system, how to file things. And then knowledge management. Knowledge management in templates. So being able to use a template and reusable content. Now, reusable content is sort of like text expansion tools, images, blocks of text, that sort of thing. And one thing to remember in many businesses, particularly your own business, is the old saying that a painter's house is never painted. So for Infusionsoft consultants, we need to make sure that we're building our own automations to wow our clients and save time, because they've got to be the shining example of what we can do for them. Then, don't neglect your own business development. You need to have clients growing, and then consider creating a repository of knowledge that you can monetize. So for example, every time I help someone with a client, I record a video on how to do it. I try to keep it very agnostic, and which means I don't reference the time of day, I don't reference the client, I don't reference where I am, I don't reference anything. I just try and keep it very, very general and simple, based on the problem that they have right then and there. So that way I can put that into a knowledge management article and then say, if I offer monthly services and do one-on-one training, it's going to cost them more because that's my time. But if I can make it cheaper for my clients and I give them access to a portal, they're going to pay me because I spent time building it and it's all my knowledge and intellectual property. But then they can take that information and access it whenever they want. And because they can watch videos, granted, I haven't spoken to them personally one-on-one, but it costs me less and it costs them less. So it's a way to monetize that knowledge. And making sure that every time you have a customer problem, you do it in that way so that you can send the problem directly to them and then whack it in your knowledge base. Templates speed up your work. Now, the reason why I've got this image here is if you ever watched ABC Kids, all the television shows, now this one is Peter Rabbit, all of them have an absolute incredible amount of templated content. Of an episode, probably 80 to 90% is new content, and a good 10 to 20% is reused, repackaged, in between content. For example, whenever these rabbits are running around and they need to show the passing of time, or there's an event like the farmer's chasing them, then there is a different song that plays, but they have if you watch enough episodes, there's probably only about 5 basic songs. They've got a song for running away from something. They've got a song for, bouncing around happy, and a song for, a number of other scenarios. But the point is, each song is so general and that they don't actually reference, run away from the farmer who's going to catch you on Wednesday near the tree. They're not specific. You cannot possibly worry about reusing it. So that's just the way that they have structured it, and it pays them off in not having to recreate. For them, they'd have to, get 3 or 4 people in a sound room for a day and record a song each time for each episode, and the cost of that could be, 3 people, a couple $1,000s. So if they record 5 songs in one and then use it for episodes that they produce over the next, and by using game dynamics, that's how a lot of the kids shows and animations are going. So they can basically use play a first-person game or a third-person game, and they're moving the actors, making gestures, and creating video without actually having to draw every frame like what used to happen with cartoons. They use sandbox campaign. I use sandbox campaigns that can be installed. So I've developed some things that I've tested, improved, and I can install it on people's Infusionsoft apps. Text expansion tools, you write something that you do repetitive and then you can paste it in, even just links. Whenever I'm doing setting up someone's account, I always have to put in their Facebook, their Twitter, and their LinkedIn in a number of places. So I just save it all to the text expansion tool. I type in the letter code for their company. So it might be HPAT, and that is HPA's Twitter. And then I press the hotkey, it expands out to the full snippet, because otherwise I'd have to go and log into Twitter. I'd have to search their profile, then copy it from the URL in the top search bar, and then put it into, or go back to the tab that I was working in and paste it in there, and then click save. So now we can go type 4 letters, hit the hotkey, press save, and done. So snippets are blocks of text that can be used in larger bodies. So even if you're writing something much bigger, but you need to have a verbatim statement, it could reference a legal document, or it could be this is how you do this one particular task, and it has to be the same every time. Then using a snippet can be really powerful. When creating reusable content, or when creating content even the first time, think about how you can use it again. This image is a picture of a car. Now the badge there is a Volkswagen, and the one they're ripping off is a Seat, S-E-A-T. It's a Spanish car. Now they have 2 different brands, but the car industry is a massive example for, when they build out something, how can they use it and repackage it 100 different times? You've heard of the term a rebadged car. It's almost the exact same car with a new badge in a different country, only it's left-hand drive. So all they've had to change is the steering column where the steering wheel is, and the dashboard. All the doors are the same, all the wheels are the same, the motor's the same, the gearbox is the same, all the back seat's the same, the boot's the same. So 80% of a car, or 90% of a car that's available left or right hand drive is the same. The only thing they've done is rebadged it for the other country, so they can go, oh yeah, this is our version. Or some people are completely unaware that many cars are very incestuous in the way that they share their parts across a whole range of vehicles. Content in emails are not scrutinized by Google, so you can copy things as much as you like. If you're copying blogs into and there's 2 of one article, or if it's written the same twice, then you're actually ranked down by Google. So making sure that you have content that you can reuse is not a problem across emails. When making videos, as I mentioned before, don't reference the client, don't make conversation about location wherever, weather, and don't reference previous videos or material. Don't say click below to see more, or like us in the comments. None of that. If you've got if you're going to use that video for a Facebook or something like that, if you're going to be specific, yes, you can do that. But if it's something you're going to reuse, maybe you can save a file on top of it, which is the credits or the captions down the bottom, and at the end you can write in, please click below, or please like and share, whatever you want to do. So there is ways to leverage that. And I've created the Automation Hub, which is a place for clients that don't want to go onto retainer model, or don't want to pay for engaging me ongoing. They can get access to the to a knowledge base, basically like a membership course style thing, where they can watch videos, they can see everything that I've done previously, and it's much cheaper for them, but they still get support, they still get help with what they're doing, and then I've got time to spend more time on the clients that do want face-to-face, do want one-to-one. I've got time to take on new clients, and every client problem becomes an opportunity to add content. So don't discount any opportunity, because I sit down and think about every possible thing that could go wrong and then make about it, but still not everything. And I might think I didn't something else easy to. So don't before you do. And then every person is visible, even if directly requested by a client. Again, make it general and send them the video, and then add it into your knowledge repository. As the library grows, so does the value, and therefore the price. Obviously, you've spent time making those videos. You've got the knowledge and expertise. You know how to explain it so that someone saves time or doesn't come across X mistake. So make sure that you get the money you deserve for the effort that you've put in. And that's me. My name is Avon, and I help you leverage yourself with systems and automation. And I'm an Infusionsoft certified consultant. Thank you very much.